Hello, Deborah Sarson. Hi, Peter. Yes, I'm fine, thank you. I had a lovely weekend, thank you. It's lovely today. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be my last meeting next Monday. My final day will be Tuesday. I'll be handing everything over. What, someone other than mine? Oh, no, or next Monday I'll still be here. So we can carry. No, that's okay. I'll make arrangements for you to call Kathy because she'll be taking the meetings. Yep. Okay. Yep, no problem. All right, I've made a note. Yep, and I'm now going to put you on speaker. All right, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, cat already. Go away.
Or physical disabilities. So let's meet them. Hello, I'm Stephen, and I'm the treasurer of the research.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Good evening.
Have we got everyone? I'm sort of eager to start with. We've only got an hour, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm just going to mute everybody and then unmute you, Sarah, just because we've got some background noise going on. So I'll mute everybody and then unmute you. Oh. Right.
Thanks. Right. Welcome to the Development Planning meeting on the 22nd of June. I'd like to announce that the proceedings are being recorded, or I assume they're being recorded.
Yes.
Yeah, and all participants will be muted as they just were. As we invite people to speak, we'll unmute them. Okay, item 2, apologies.
We have apologies from Councillor Kirby, Councillor Fitzgerald, and I believe Councillor Hurst may be struggling to attend tonight's meeting.
Okay. Okay, item 3, register of interest. Just a reminder to councillors to keep up to date the register of interests. Do we have any requests for dispensation? No. Okay, minutes of previous meeting. Go through first for accuracy. Okay, page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Everyone happy for me to sign off on those? Can I propose they're accepted? Second,
Yes.
Excellent. All in favour?
Okay.
Okay. All right, go through for matters arising. Page 1. Page 2, just got an agenda item for today. Page 3. And page 4. Okay. Item 5, public participation. Invitation for members of public to put questions or statements of not more than 3 minutes duration. Resolutions can only be made on items that are on the agenda, but councillors are very happy for matters relating to the town to be brought to our attention. Do we have any members of the public attending, and would anyone like to speak?
We do have several members of the public in attendance. If anybody wants to speak, I suggest they unmute themselves and just indicate that they wish to speak, and then we'll take any participants one at a time. Seems as though no member of the public wishes to speak.
Okay. Item 6, the Newmarket Neighbourhood Plan community actions to discuss. Were we waiting for a list of the actions to be sent around separately?
Yes, they've been sort of struggling to get a hold of them, and I have just got hold of them today, and I've arranged for them to be printed in a hard copy version as agreed and sent out. That'll be happening at the end of this week. So there's probably, at this stage, probably not a lot to discuss.
Okay.
But they will all obviously be going to the Neighbourhood Plan Committee at its first meeting.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak on this at all? I've got a couple of things I was going to raise in the trees, under the trees item about the neighbourhood plan, but...
Chair?
Yep.
I'd like to speak. Personally, I think it shouldn't have community actions there. I don't think it's the Development Planning Committee that deals with the community actions. And I thought the purpose of having it as item 6 before we considered applications was to look at anything that might apply to a subsequent that's on the list.
Okay,
now,
so we probably just need to change it.
There is one, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
It's the St Gatian Cottages stables, and I'm very grateful to the resident who's raised the issue of the key view.
Yeah, it made life easier for us, didn't it, when it's spelt out.
but that's
that and the subsect and the breaking up of the yard as well into sub yards.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we'll be coming to that when we get to the list, but that's the sort of thing I thought was the point of having it there, that we would say this is a policy that affects this application, and if we have it up front, then we know when we get to the application we can refer to it. But obviously you're on the ball and you know that, so yeah.
Well, this is a way of whether or not we want to talk around it first, or just remember that we need to refer to it when we're talking about each individual planning application. I think in this case it would make sense to be looking at the application while we're discussing the neighbourhood plan's impact upon it. But yeah, we should probably change the agenda item as well.
Yeah, it ought to have said policies rather than community actions, and it might be just to say, the agenda item, just to note whether any planning applications to be considered are impacted by the neighbourhood plan, or something to that effect on the agenda in future.
Okay.
Well, actually, just thinking about that, of course there is the other one, that's the McDonald's sign, and whether that's appropriate for the entrance to the town. So that's policy 32, I think we know, don't we?
Yes, yeah, there's that one as well, yeah, and it's part of the shopfront policy. I don't know if the
shopfront policy works.
Oh, because it's not on the conservation.
Yeah,
okay. So it's explicit neighbourhood plan then.
It's also part of the more general neighbourhood plan. That's one of the things that West Suffolk didn't get right, was to try and home in the McDonald's thing into just policy 32, when in fact it's more than that. And it'll be the same with that sign too.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments they'd like to make on this item before we move on? Okay, right, get to planning applications then. List 23. DC 200805 full, 27A Old Station Road. This is currently a 3-storey block of flats, and the application is about adding a 4th floor flat on top. It backs onto the Sackville Stables, bungalows and house. Well, first, would anyone like to make any comments about this? As you can see, it's very much in the style of the existing building. It's next to another tall building, and it's had a recently constructed building behind it on an angle. But it's, given the fact it doesn't, I mean, obviously it doesn't have parking being central town, but I don't know if we're considering this overdevelopment or, because obviously it would be seen from quite a way away, given the fact that it's very close to the Gallops and the High Street. Any
Chair,
comments?
yeah, I think that we
Councillor
ought to defer this so everybody can go and have a look at it. We seem to have plenty of time for that.
Do we know what the date is on?
Yeah, it says the
Okay.
28th of July.
Okay. I think we can defer this one.
I just wanted to say I'm never happy with deferring something so we can go and have a look. I think if we want to have a look, we should do so before the meeting.
I was actually going to say that next. You know, I was going to.
I just think we need to get out of that habit, because we're going to end up wanting to look at something and losing the opportunity to comment. Yeah.
Well,
it's an observation, not a criticism.
But in this case, yes, I'm just saying going forward, I was going to make a point about, given the fact we do get the list of planning applications with the meeting agenda, that unless we need to set up an actual site visit, we should probably kind of have a quick look before the meeting. But in this case, yeah, I'm perfectly happy to defer it.
So I'll propose that we defer it to the next meeting.
Okay, I'll second that. In favour?
Yep.
Okay. I assume that was passed.
Yes, I think it was.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't flick through at the same time. Okay, DC 200817 ADV, which is a totem sign for McDonald's, which is 5 meters high by 3 meters by half a meter, on the side of the A142. The timber effect with aluminium. I had a Deborah, can you get the plans up for this? Because I had I'm concerned about this, that the actual image they've shown doesn't really match with the text beneath. In the moment, it's a golden arch with the Costa text, but they make some mention about other text to drive through, which isn't shown. So I'm not convinced that the document is correct.
I'm just trying to get the other. Which other document did you want to see?
Just the one that had the big M that you have open at the moment.
Okay, fine.
So we're back on your Explorer view. If you pop back to the
Sorry.
That one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that text, if you sort of zoom in a bit, includes comments about the colour of the drive-through. Councillor Drummond?
Yeah, I've seen a different version of this, which also included a Wix sign on it. So I'm wondering, we perhaps need some clarification as to whether it's the correct sign.
Yeah, I think it's just, the scale is what concerns me as well. I mean, 5 meters seems considerable. You know, a lot of the house plans we see, the rooms aren't 5 meters, you know, across, let alone having a big McDonald's sign on the side of the main road into Newmarket that's that scale. Is it possible for us to get confirmation as to whether or not this is the final?
I think we all, if I may, Chair.
Yes, Karen.
This is where perhaps we have to start building the narrative. We know that we've got policy number 32, which says that we want the entrances to the town be as attractive as possible. So we need to state that. And we need to say that this, we think, will not make that entrance to the town attractive because of the scale of the totem pole and the fact that it's internally lit. Now, there may be more words we could add to that, but I'm just remembering that we have to have a narrative if we want to convince them. We can't just say, oh, it contravenes neighbourhood plan policy 32.
Exactly. I mean, it is right on that major thing, and it's not really serving any purpose other than just sort of sticking out. You know, it's not like people aren't going to realise there's a McDonald's there or an Acosta there. They've got a lot of branding on the actual buildings themselves. This is designed just to be really obnoxiously bright, right on a road which otherwise is quite green and leafy and becomes quite residential after the park.
Do we have to have this? Can we not at all say we don't agree for the erection of this? I don't know.
I think it would be unreasonable for them not to want to have some form of advertisement, but I think it depends on the scale and the design. Am I right in thinking that there are residential properties on the other side of the junction?
Yes, directly opposite this sign.
So presumably if that's going to be internally lit, they might be adversely impacted at
They
night?
will be, yes. Yeah, this will, I mean, they've claimed it's going to be, have minimum east-west glare, but in reality, if you're lighting up a bright sign that's, 600 candelas, that is equivalent of a very bright light, you know, a very bright spotlight, directly opposite residential houses.
It's
This I think is
overbearing.
It really, things like this really cheapens the town to have something like this erected when you're coming into Newmarket. To me, I mean, this is me. I think we didn't agree on this anyway, but I think it cheapens the town like anything. It's like us going into near enough, you're going into Las Vegas. And I'm sorry, it doesn't give a good impression of the town. Okay.
Well, I mean, if it was better placed, if it was around the corner where the roundabout is with the Tesco signage and with Wickes, in that industrial area where all around you've got the industrial buildings and you're already ready for that sort of scale, it would make sense. It's just when you're on the road and all you're really going to be seeing is wooden facades on aluminium clad buildings, it is going to stick out. I don't think it's appropriate in scale.
Can I make a proposal, please?
Yes.
Could I propose that we object to the application on scale and dominance, impact on character and appearance of the area, and of it not in keeping with item 32 on the neighbourhood plan? Is that correct?
Policy 32. Yeah.
Policy 32.
And the neighbourhood plan in general, because it's not just policy 32.
Yeah, and proposals
also
in the local
views.
Development plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neighbourhood plan. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading off the materials.
I like to say this. I mean, obviously, they might say they want to erect it, but remember, it is our town. We should have a right to say if we can have this or not. I say we don't want it because, as I said, it cheapens the area. This is what I think, anyway. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think
it's certainly overbearing compared with the Burger King sign, which is on the second roundabout.
Yeah, it
Chair,
seems.
can I just add something? There is no need to have one of these totem pole type signs. So, I mean, I think we're absolutely right to object. I'm happy to second Councillor O'Neill's objection. And I mean, we'll get on to the larger issue further down the agenda of the McDonald's itself. But, you know, it's doubly offensive for a totem pole sign to be suggested in this location.
In terms of the response that we actually submit to the planning authority, would it be acceptable if we were to say that the scale of the proposed totem pole is not in accordance with NKT 32 owing to its proposed size and being internally lit? Residential properties on the opposite side of the road would be adversely affected, and it would be more appropriately located within the development as with other elements of the that area of development.
Well, Chair, can I just say something? I think we need to widen this. We need to be very careful not just to limit ourselves to item 32. We need, you know, it is contrary to the letter and the spirit of the neighbourhood plan, as the Mayor will confirm. And I think that's why we need to make sure that we are including the neighbourhood plan generally as well as item 32.
Well, yes, taking Councillor Hood's point, objective A is to promote and maintain the character and prosperity of the town. So we're saying that it's affecting the character, I would say, of the town. To value and protect our environment, we can include the fact that the area around that is green with green hedges. And it's probably those two objectives mainly. The other ones don't really apply.
I say what I like to say is that obviously we object to being erected anywhere. This will be my objection.
This will be up before district planning committee, presumably.
Well, only if we ask for it to be.
Oh, I think that'd be wise, wouldn't it? Yeah, we won't fight it there.
Yeah.
So if I can just clarify, we're objecting on scale and dominance, the effect, the impact on the character and appearance of the area, and then the objections within the neighbourhood plan.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Do we need to refer to something like, you know, notwithstanding the fact that there are existing retail outlets there, this would be totally out of scale with the other developments? We have to recognise there are other retail outlets there. We can't pretend it's some unspoilt site. It's considerably spoilt by a number of buildings, but nothing of this scale.
But yeah, and that roadway is at the moment unspoilt. It's when you get further on that to the next roundabout with the Burger King, well, just past the car wash and gets the Burger King, that you've suddenly got large signage. Whereas really pulling the area forward towards the residential, isn't it?
Sorry, just sorry to keep butting in, but I mean, it should be stated that the neighbourhood plan was about improving Newmarket as well, and not necessarily keeping, you know, the low level, you know, development that has become commonplace in the past few years. So it's aspirational, which is why I think we need to say it's contrary to the spirit and the letter of the neighbourhood plan.
Deborah, is that enough?
McDonald's draw a comparison with the Tesco garage sign, don't they? Which is probably 15 high, and I don't think it's 9 foot wide, is it?
It doesn't really matter what they do.
It's one thing to bear in mind, that's all.
Yeah, well, that's why I think it would be better placed if they're going to have the sign. It would be better placed opposite that, rather where you can only really see it once you're in that industrial area, rather than on the road that's currently clear.
And we didn't have the neighbourhood plan when the Tesco was built, you know, so I think we really need to make our views, you know, crystal clear.
Well, we should do, as I said, because let's face it, we don't want it. If there's any way we can get out the whip, we don't have to have it. Well, as I said, it's our town. We should say yes or no. Thank you.
So if I was to draft something, perhaps circulate it to the committee, it'll have to be Wednesday because tomorrow I'll be getting the full council agenda out, and then we can agree the exact wording of the response to be submitted to the planning portal, with the minute just specifying the areas that Councillor O'Neill has highlighted. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, I think that'd be
Yes.
ideal. Okay, shall we have a vote then? All in favour?
Okay.
Right then. DC 200821 Phil, which is the St. Gatian property. Gatian. Thank you. Cottage. Okay, so they have a lot going on in this planning application, including changing the access, a horse walker, a new bungalow. They are, one very good thing is suggesting an electric charging point, but it's a subdivision of the property, and as we were discussing earlier, this does contravene a few of the neighbourhood plan policies, and would well distort one of the views, the All Saints Road opposite the junction with Queen Street. No, hang on, that's not it. It's the Vicarage Road from the entrance to the All Saints Primary School, looking north-northeast towards Clevedon House.
Yeah.
So explicitly, that wall on the left is considered one of the views that we should maintain in the neighbourhood plan. And of course, there is the highways issue of putting in more heavily used entrance right opposite a school. Which is also an issue. Would anyone like to speak on this?
Well, to be specific, and very grateful to the MLO who's written a very good letter. It is Neighbourhood Plan Policy Newmarket 2, and it's Key View 35. So those are facts that we have to put in, and we have to question whether the development would spoil that key view. It's very difficult to assess whether it would, and I can't say, oh yeah, it's going to spoil it. I just can't tell that, not from plans and the pictures we've got. But we can point it out to the planners, and of course there are, is it 3 different residents in that Flatland Street have objected, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. 4, I think.
Is it 4?
Yeah. 17, 7, 37, 31.
And this is essentially a really difficult planning application because it would vastly improve the facilities at that site. And it is a site requiring modernisation and redevelopment. But then another things, it contravenes the site subdivision has been identified as an increasing threat to the historic training yards point, in that this will be a subdivision. I mean, again, that's difficult because of course you want working, growing stables. Reinvestment is a good thing. Any comments? Other comments?
Well, just generally, I'm assuming, although I don't know who they are, that somebody, I think this was where Charlie Fellows was training, and then he's moved elsewhere. So I'm assuming new people are coming in and wanting to put it in order. But it's that balance, isn't it, between, as you say, keeping a stable being able to be used, but also not letting the important parts in the neighbourhood plan or in our policies generally be overlooked. It's a bit complicated, I think.
Yeah, this is where it all gets into a grey area, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. It does from the planning design and access statement suggest that there was a new owner in there, and the Zingatian site has been split to form a starter yard for the applicant's venture. It does have the majority of facilities required in place, but certain elements need upgrading to make the yard functional. One of the things they talk about in this design and access statement is the two stables. I'll just find the layout, site layout plan again. The two stables in this location here, they claim aren't used. But when I went on to Google Maps, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I'm just going to have to stop the share so I can see the top of my screen. Just bear with me. It clearly shows that these stables are still in use. Just bear with me while I bring that up. You can see there's horses in both of those stables. But you can also see the proximity to the neighbouring properties. And the lady at number 7, who's put in a really excellent response, you can see where she's coming from in terms of the bungalow, which she says is going to impact on her light. It's going to impact on her privacy, and she's concerned about the issue of flooding as a result of the loss of the green space in there, which they're proposing to put to tarmac.
If I can just say something, the land, those stables are indeed in use, and the land is raised quite highly there by the looks of things. And
yeah, you don't. I mean, there is more of an incline than it looks. Actually, even there is. It does. It's
yeah, and
gracious.
then the loss of light and overlooking. What I'm trying to look for that is that let me have a look. Loss of daylight, sunlight, or overshadowing, and overlooking, loss of privacy. They're really going to impact on those houses along there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because otherwise, I mean, bungalows tend to not have those impacts, but because of that incline, the fact it is a bungalow isn't really that helpful. And the other thing is the loss of the historic wall from the perspective of the view. In order to have the visibility displays and the bungalow. I mean, no, I can see why they say that they want to have improved stables, but those are sort of heritage design stables that do have an effect on the view. So yeah, this is a really tricky one, isn't it?
Well, I think it's okay to welcome modernisation of the facility, but I think perhaps the developer needs to go back and have another look at perhaps a more sympathetic proposal, and one that would have as less impact. I mean, they could, if they looked at a redesign, the bungalow could. If
the bungalow was on the other side, for instance, against the existing taller wall. Yeah, at least there's no trees there that we're losing. Small mercies.
Encourage them to plant trees.
Can I propose a statement that we welcome the modernisation and reinvestment in facilities, but we do have concerns about the subdivision of the property and the loss of the view, the existing view, and
loss of privacy and overshadowing.
Yes, and light. Loss of light to neighbouring properties due to the bungalow. There was an issue raised about whether or not they should be building a bungalow on land that's is meant for horses if they already have a residence on site. But I'm assuming the subdivision means that the residents will be with the other half of the site.
Chairman, I think we could emphasise the environmental thing, that we're losing a green paddock here to tarmac, which is clearly detrimental in terms of the environment. Would be another view or another thing to add. I think you've done extremely well, and I think what you've said is fine, because I find this the most difficult one. We do they really need to modernise stables. Stables can't just exist as museums.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it has to be working, fully functioning. The Newmarket heritage isn't a historic thing; it's a living thing, isn't it? It's
putting a bungalow there probably does contravene many of our policies.
Yes.
And yes, when it boils down to it, it's a bungalow more than anything else, isn't it?
Do we want to pick out any of the comments that have been made by the resident at number 7? I thought that her statement.
She had an excellent email. Yes.
She did. Can you see the email on your screens? Or are you still looking at the?
We're still looking at Google.
Okay. Well,
I'm reading it at the moment.
I'll just reshare the screen. So yeah, I mean, she talks about NKT2, local plan DM17, the conservation area, DM49, redevelopment of existing sites relating to the horse racing industry, local plan DM7, the conservation areas again. And then obviously her loss of privacy, right to light, the flooding and sustainable drainage proposals I thought were really quite important, particularly her comments about that the local residents are participating in a water harvesting scheme at the behest of Anglian Water, which already acknowledges the challenges posed to drainage load in the immediate area from pluvial runoff. So I think, she's put together.
Item 6 is the one to read, I think, there, where at the end of that it says DM47, development relating to the horse racing industry does not incorporate the right to create a new residential dwelling on land identified as green space within the conservation area and under DM17 conservation area.
So I wonder whether part of our response would be to support the points that have been made by this resident, MLO.
Yeah, around the flooding.
Well, around most of what
flood risk.
Oh, I'd say
yeah,
around all of it. Should we just say we support?
The comments that she has made.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do welcome reinvestment and modernisation of.
Yeah. Okay. Shall I? Obviously, this is quite an important application. Shall I draft a response to this one as well?
I think you're going to have to. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, should I propose that?
I'll second that.
Well,
okay, all in favour.
So the minutes can reflect all the various points that we've made, about concerns about the impact of loss of use of NKT2, concerns of loss of privacy, light, loss of the sort of the green and the environmental impact of that, and then whatever I put together will sort of expand on that and sort of make it more robust for submitting, but as a draft for consideration to submit to West Suffolk.
Excellent. All in favour doing that?
Councillor Holbert?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I think those are the long ones. Should we get on to the others? DC 200843 TCA, Jockey Club Chambers. These are tree works next to a historic wall that is actually, I believe, listed.
Sorry, I need to make a declaration of interest here, a non-pecuniary interest.
Okay.
So I won't take part in this conversation.
Okay. Right, it should be relatively short anyway. So you've got a Rabina, and sorry, I haven't noted down what the other tree was. It was a multi-stem one that didn't look terribly mature in the photos.
What application was this one? I'll get it up.
Okay,
DC
it was
20
0843 TCA.
Sorry, Sarah, I was looking at it. That's why I spoke.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just opening the documents. They're taking a little bit of time.
I am very much focusing on the trees against the wall because they're the only ones that are being suggested as being felled. There are a lot of trees that they intend to do a crown lift to, which include 4 limes, a yew, an ash, walnut having a crown reduction, but all of that just seems to be healthy maintenance of trees.
Just bear this. So if I just, sorry, I'm working frantically here. Here we go. These are, there's that, and then there's the tree survey report.
Yeah, that's quite long.
Yeah.
I did read it on, but I don't think we really didn't read it in the meeting. But it's the photos that are the important bit. So you've got the multi-stem. I forgot what I just said it was.
It's an ash.
Oh yeah, multi-stem ash, and then a Rabina. So you can see there that that is legitimately damaging the wall. And unlike the one we had in the previous and last meeting, where the wall could have been built around the root structure, I think this is very much creating a significant impact. Should point out these aren't the only trees on the property. There are dozens of other ones, according to the survey. So it probably won't affect the overall kind of greenness of the area. Anyone like to comment? Okay, then I'll propose that we support this as being positive tree management. And encourage them to replant trees, the trees that are being felled.
Yes.
I don't think we can really object to these ones being felled because it is a listed wall.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favour?
Okay.
I think that's carried.
Okay. Okay, DC 200865HH, which is Long Cottage. It's a 3-bay cart lodge and storage, and part retrospective rear extension permission, and another rear extension, just to be complicated. Frustratingly, the place where they're putting the cart lodge on was very green and covered with trees, but the trees have already been felled prior to the application. So at the moment, yeah, the cart lodge is just been going to be built on some grass. So you can see Long Cottage in the middle there. That extension going off the back is one that's it was built larger than the previous planning permission, so it needs retrospective planning permission, and they're going to add another wing going off at the back there. So that's existing site plan, and if you scroll down to the proposed one, you can see the extra wing at the back and this new cart lodge and storage up against the edge of the site to the right. Anyone like to comment on this one?
I couldn't see anything really to object to. There seems significant space on the land, so unless anyone's got a better reason, I would propose no objections.
Yeah, you know, it's obvious it's just a residential house. They're expanding because of the, make space for the own family. The cart lodge is a very sympathetic building. It's not too close to the neighbours' boundaries. They have left some space. So I would second that.
I suggest you go with it.
Okay, all in favour?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, DC 20. Sorry, that did pass. I'm going to assume that, Deborah, if you don't say anything, I'm going to move on.
Yeah, no.
Okay, DC 200869 TCA, repollarding a horse chestnut at Bedford House Stables. Can I just say we support this as good tree management and then move on?
Second that one, yeah.
Okay, all in favour?
Okay.
Okay. DC 200884 TCA, Fairway Lodge, felling 2 conifers. One is dead already, and one is too close to the house. And then there's some other tree works relating to lifting crowns. Anyone like to comment on this one?
May I just declare an interest in that I know the applicant very well, so I won't take part in the vote, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. This one again, I kind of consider this difficult because from the house it does look like, I mean, conifers do get huge and they will kind of impose themselves upon a building. And the tree survey does say that the other one is dead, so I would consider this good tree management.
Yes.
But I don't know if we want to ask the tree officer to have a look, or if they'll have already looked at this one because of the crown lifts being quite substantial. No comments? Okay, shall I propose?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favour?
Okay.
Okay, so that's for the tree officer to have a look. Otherwise, we
Right.
support his good tree management.
Okay, thank you.
Where are we next? List 24, DC 200819 TPO, Prestige Place, is it? Felling a sorbus and a sycamore. I was confused by this because the form said it was a TCA form, but apparently the trees have a TPOs on them. They're claiming the sorbus has failed due to ivy and the sycamore is in a poor form. But they've got no location or photos evidence on the portal, so I think this is one for the tree officer to make the decision on.
We object to the felling of healthy trees, so
Okay.
would call in the tree officer to make a...
To ensure that they are, whether or not they are healthy, rather than take their word on this, especially given the fact they do have TPOs and they're claiming that they don't. Okay, so shall I propose that?
Seconded.
Okay, second. Okay, all in favour?
Okay.
Okay. DC 200848 TPO, Paget Place. Again, claims to be a TCA, but they're actually on the form, but it's a TPO. But it's just a crown reduction. So I think this is healthy tree management. All in
Seconded.
favour? Seconded, all in favour? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Right, I think that's all for the planning lists. So where are we? Hang on. Hang on. Item 8, amended and deferred plans. Reconsultation of DC 200753HH. This was the one that had no docs on the portal at the last meeting. It's Manderson Road, a single-storey rear extension on a pre-existing concrete house of the airy concrete construction and inclusion of a brick facade. So they're going to brick the whole house so it doesn't look like a concrete one. Put a flat roof extension on the back with roof lights. And there's a supporting document from the neighbour rather than an objection, which is very nice.
I propose no objections.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favour?
Okay.
Okay. Item 9, planning applications from East Cams. Do we have any?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, there weren't any included in the pack. Item 10, planning applications from Suffolk County Council.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, quick. Item 11, planning decision plans withdrawn. It's controversial in that the Wood Ditton Road development has been passed, which was the one which had access issues. Trying to sigh. There's nothing we can really do about it now. But it's frustrating to see that our comments aren't really taken seriously when it came to that one. The restaurant controversial. Item 12, delegation planning decisions. Does anyone have anything they want to raise for this item? Do we want to ask for the McDonald's totem to go to a delegation panel? Or not?
No, we want to ask for
The opposite.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Cool.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Yes, that'd be the wrong way round.
So we wanted to go to committee, is what you're asking?
Yes, we would like the totem to go to committee. Are there any others that anyone would like to see go to committee?
I wonder whether the Sagats and
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, do we need to vote on that? Or?
Well, we can. I'm not entirely sure that it's actually something the town council can request. Am I right?
Oh, because we need to have the.
I think it's
representative of the ward.
The ward member needs to request.
Okay, so we just email and ask politely.
Yeah.
Okay.
My challenge is knowing which ward member is relevant.
Okay, we'll have to find out.
Okay.
We're talking Newmarket North, aren't we?
Well, for the McDonald's.
The Newmarket North, so that's fine. And Mr. Drummond will tell me who the other one is.
Karen Soons.
Karen and who? Sorry.
Karen Soons.
Michael Anderson and Karen Soons.
I missed that one. Right. Yep.
I mean, if you just want to jot down who is what, James and I are Newmarket West, and Rachel and Robert Nobbs are Newmarket East.
And St Gashins falls into which of those?
East.
Right.
He's talking about McDonald's also in the area up there. Also, it's a Mike Anderson, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
If you're just talking about obviously West Suffolk, I know it is Mike Anderson's area also.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Peter.
Okay. 8 minutes left, so we're going to have to do the rest quite quickly. McDonald's application DC 202210 full. Rachel, would you like to speak on this?
Yeah. I would. I've looked into this, and I'm very clear that this is a case where a judicial review could be successful. So it seems to me that they have failed to give proper consideration to the neighbourhood plan, and if we don't challenge that at this point, we may well be undermining the neighbourhood plan on a permanent basis. So there is the failure to give proper consideration to the terms of the neighbourhood plan. And in my view, there is also a complete failure by the planning officer to address the juxtaposition of a fast food outlet to the playing fields. The only reference to the playing fields is just a locational one, as in on the south side, whichever side it was, is the George Lambton playing fields, and so on. They didn't get any kind of report from the public health people. You know, they didn't bother to get a report that could have been helpful in relation to the fact that we have this epidemic of child obesity, and the fact that I don't think anybody now thinks that it is appropriate to have an enticing fast food outlet on children's playing fields. But to me, the main thing is the failure to support the neighbourhood plan that everybody has worked so hard to write, to have passed by referendum, etc., etc. So it's really a discussion about whether, you know, people feel, oh, let's just give up on this, or whether they feel that we ought to, if we are doing our job, look into filing a judicial review. Technically, you have 6 weeks from the decision to do that, but the timings involve putting a sort of letter before action to West Suffolk. You have to do some paperwork before you actually file a judicial review. So I don't want to go on. I just want to say to people, in my view, having looked into it, there's clearly an opportunity, if people want to do it, to judicially review this decision. So, Chair.
What are the financial implications of that?
Well, it would cost, I understand, about £10,000 to get to the point where a judicial review could be filed. And that's something that people may want to look into more, or you may all think, oh no, we couldn't possibly do that. You know, it's dependent on how people feel about making sure that the neighbourhood plan is actually adhered to, which, in my view, just a planning officer saying it doesn't contravene it doesn't reach any kind of threshold. So I don't know what people think.
As I say, no, we should on this, because the simple reason is that we've got to go to something. Otherwise, these, as you say, under the Newmarket review, whatever that is, you know, whatever we go for, they seem to not take any notice. So therefore, we've got to try and then make them look at our point of view. Okay.
Could we go for a legal opinion first, which might cost just £1,000 or £2,000?
I'm kind of reluctant to pursue this one, because I mean the reality is most Newmarket residents are going to be supporting McDonald's in this instance. Yes, the location was ill thought out, but then at the time when they planned the McDonald's, the neighbourhood plan was still being drawn up. And I was kind of frustrated to find out, because I was expecting the McDonald's branding and signage planning permission to be what on coming up, and it turned out that in January of 2019, the actual McDonald's signage went through the Planning Development Committee of Newmarket Town Council completely unopposed, and that would have been a useful point to, because if it was a building that looked like every other building and you just happened to think, oh, it's a restaurant without loads of McDonald's branding everywhere, this whole thing about it being next to the playing fields would be less of an issue. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot by not objecting to that planning permission. I mean, stopping the totem is one thing, but you know, it's kind of difficult now. The whole horse is bolted to. So, Councillor Jeffreys.
Well, I suppose I'm supporting your view, and whilst Councillor Hood, I admire your wish to fight and fight and fight again. I think we lost the battle when Burger King was built and Wickes was built. These are two.
Well, the car wash is very ostentatious. You know, it's very kind of bright and lit, and that whole area could have been built better had we had a Newmarket plan years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Burger King must go back 30 years, I'm guessing. And that's when the deterioration of that entrance started.
But then I have happy memories about when there used to be a Wimpy on the high street. So, you know, it's very much a perception thing, isn't it? I mean, we can't. I would hesitate to spend council funds on obstructing something that the general public are going to be welcoming. Just because it's ill located.
Peter would like to speak.
Yes, I mean, yes. The thing is on this, I mean, the way I look at it is, we've got Burger King up there and everything, and you think of all the other fast food outlets we've got in Newmarket. I'll tell you what, we've got a total of 45 in Newmarket. What do we want another one for? Especially where it is. I mean, you know, stick out like a sore thumb of when you're coming into Newmarket. This is my main thing. And also the litter that it will cause and everything. I know they probably have the bins outside, but let's face it, so the Tesco's, which has still got a load of bags up the trees. But no, I'm against it. We've got enough of these places in Newmarket, these fast food outlets. This is why I'm against it. You know what I mean? I mean, as I said, if you want a burger that bad, you've only got to go to Burger King. But that is me. Thank you.
So, Peter, are you saying that you support the proposal for a judicial review?
Oh, I haven't made a proposal for a judicial review. I'm just trying to explain to people where we are in case, you know, I mean, what I'm saying is I'm very clear, having discussed it generally and with lawyer colleagues and the like, that the Newmarket neighbourhood plan, which we didn't have when such a horrible mess was made of the entrance from from junction 37, we didn't have it. So, you know, no wonder it's horrible. At some point, it seems to me, we need to make a decision about whether we're supporting the neighbourhood plan or whether we're not. And, you know, so I'm not actually, I mean, I think Councillor Jeffreys, I mean, the Mayor knows me well enough to know that I would, you know, I think this is particularly deleterious for our children. And, you know, we have an obesity epidemic, and I find it inconceivable that a McDonald's should be put where it is. And I also find it inconceivable that we haven't managed to get any kind of acknowledgement that when you come into that part of town, it needs not to continue being hideous. We should be actually saying, even if we're saying to McDonald's, you know, here's a kind of letter before action. But if you can do something about, you know, more about the litter, if you can make the building more appropriate for an entrance to Newmarket, then perhaps we'll go away. But there's been absolutely nothing except proposing a really execrable poll saying McDonald's and Costa. You know, at this point we are sort of in the lowest common denominator, and you know, I'm not proposing it, I'm just saying perhaps we ought to try and stand up for our neighbourhood plan. But you know, I don't know what people think.
I think it'll be a difficult one to win, and it could be expensive, because we would presumably be the plaintiff.
We would.
I also, I mean, clearly the neighbourhood plan is important, but I wouldn't want to see this as the item on which we say it's failed. I think we may have lost this battle, but that doesn't mean to say we've lost the neighbourhood plan by any means. And what we have done is point out that we will defend the policies in the neighbourhood plan by bringing it clearly to the attention of the planning authority. So that from now on, they can't just, oh, there is a neighbourhood plan. We're saying every time it's appropriate, look at our neighbourhood plan. So I don't see it as a sort of losing that battle. I'm inclined to agree with Councillor Caesar that in terms of popularity stakes, spending money, it would not be a popular thing to do, as a lot of people in Newmarket would actually like to see a McDonald's there, without perhaps seeing the wider context of an important entrance to the town.
I think when the sign matter comes up, you know, one can then put the public, the amenity view points there to try and get some improvement in the facade of the McDonald's.
Because I don't know if you remember, years ago we had a Wimpy bar that was in Newmarket, but that didn't pay, and they sold up and got out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Burger King will suffer from this and we'll end up with a nicer thing on the Burger King site in the long term as everyone moves over. You know, there's always positive that might fall out from this, but I don't think this is a total loss either. I do think that things can be done, like I was going to bring up in the whole trees item, is, you know, part of the problem is being able to see the McDonald's from the playing fields, but you know, adding a little community woodland as a screen between the two would get around that. If they get their totem refused, they aren't going to be impacting the road too much. Yes, it's a shame that we didn't object as a council to their signage, and that's gone through unopposed, but you know, I don't think we should have to spend money for past mistakes by this council.
Okay, well, I'll make a proposal that you can all vote down. All right. I will propose that the committee judicially reviews the decision to permit the McDonald's on the playing fields site because it breaches the neighbourhood plan. It's damaging to fast food restaurants, and damaging to the in light of the ongoing obesity epidemic. So it's on those two grounds, that it shouldn't be on children's playing fields, and we should be supporting the neighbourhood plan because it breaches it.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, thank you. Councillor Drummond, all in favour?
Do we have Councillor Halwood, I should think, judging by what he's been saying, probably wants to...
Yeah, I think that was...
Councillor Hood has to say. Just accept they get it right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Those against?
Those against? Sorry, I do apologise for this, because I do actually kind of agree with you in ways, but yeah.
It's the money.
I don't think this is a hill we need to die on.
Yeah, no, but sorry, I'd like a recorded vote.
Oh,
You should declare a recorded vote before the vote is taken. You can't do it afterwards.
Very convenient.
sorry.
I think it can be permitted.
And we need to hustle up a bit, don't we? Because we've already overrun.
Sorry, Councillor Appleby, which way did you vote?
Against.
Okay, so that was Mick. So that's not carried.
It will come up as a recommendation for full council, won't it? So it will be reconsidered.
Oh, that's, yes. Yes, you get a second shot, don't you?
I'll get a recorded vote then.
Yeah, you're good. You're fine. And we can all consider our opinions again by then. Okay, can we move on to item 14, the overhanging vegetation on the A142, which is pretty dire. You can't see the junction signs. You can still see the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, which you didn't used to be able to see many years ago, but yeah, it is pretty dire. I did want to say, though, it is bird nesting season, so I'm not sure we want to actually hack back all the vegetation until end of August. So I would, oh, sorry, Councillor Jeffries.
Well, no, I mean, I support you on that. I certainly wouldn't do it during bird nesting season. But what I would suggest is that it's not just the section of the A142 that you've been talking about. If you carry on that side of the road, there's a footpath there which you can barely walk down because of the hedges growing outwards. So it's the whole of that section of A142 Fordham Road that hedge needs to be trimmed back once the bird nesting season is over.
Yeah, and this seems to be an ongoing issue, as in every year when it's in full growth as it is after kind of the spring, summer growth spurt. It always seems to be an ongoing issue. So I don't know if we want to request that in the autumn that they, instead of just trimming it, they cut it back to a point at which future growth won't obscure the signage and the walkway.
On a similar point, I went up the Cheveley Road the other day, and the trees there seem to be flourishing.
It's nice, isn't it?
That's in your patch, isn't it?
Yeah.
So who is responsible for trimming these roadside hedges? Does that come under the Suffolk County or West Suffolk?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the County Council Highways, isn't it, in that stretch?
And you might find it's New England Stud as well, and he's quite amenable to do some hedge trimming.
Okay. So do we want to write to County Council Highways and ask them if they can cut back these stretches? What it would be really useful actually if everybody who's identified areas, if you could just email them all in, and then we can sort of create a list, and then it's just one email.
Okay, but can I propose that we request that they're only cut back in September? I think they probably have a policy that they don't cut prior to that anyway, but
I think also, just interrupting, I have also run this through about the one that Jeffries has been on about, and I got a work number for them to be trimmed from Suffolk County Council.
Okay.
okay.
That near enough 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Maybe they are just waiting then and fully intend upon doing it.
Could they do my hedges at the same time?
Okay.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on anything there, or?
No, I don't.
I mean, it's pretty standard maintenance, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 15, licensing.
No.
Anything to discuss?
Yeah.
Item 16, tree policy to discuss.
Can I suggest, given the time, that we defer this to the next meeting if there's no...
Can I just put in quickly that I had some email exchanges, and Nick Patton of the Jockey Club, apparently they've got a 30-year woodland management plan, and he'd like to do a presentation about that at some future stage.
Yeah, I was going to ask if he could be invited for that at some future point, possibly. I mean, no rush.
We'll leave that
would
one.
Be good. I also was going to ask if we can, before we discuss it, if you could get some information from West Suffolk or the County Council about how many tree protection orders have been created in the last decade. Because I'm wondering if anyone else are putting new TPOs on trees, and I'd like to have that information going into a discussion rather than if that's possible.
Okay.
Thank you. Item 17, correspondence.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, so date next meeting is Monday, the 6th of July. Anyone got anything for consideration at the next meeting, other than the tree policy? And we will discuss the McDonald's at the full town council, I guess. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Full council meeting, won't it?
Well, it'll come up under matters arising when under
Right.
the consideration of the minutes of the DMP meeting.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thanks, Deborah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks all, and
Thank
apologies
you.
for overrunning.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you in a bit.
Yeah. Okay.